plus growth after the pandemic slump. Ahead of Union budget, the Finance Ministry had invited suggestions from people on MyGov portal, and it is seen that the citizen focus was on improving health and sanitation sectors, increase in exemption under Income Tax Act, and improving employment prospects in sectors such as tourism and small businesses. Later in the event, we will definitely dive deeper into understanding the challenges of project execution, budget expectations for infrastructure and construction from Mr. Sanjay Garg. I urge everyone to share your views, pose questions, and make this session an interactive one. Going ahead, we would like to tabulate this discussion that will be presented to the Finance Ministry along with budget analysis and gaps in the industry expectations. Before moving forward, let me invite Mr. Pratap Padode, founder and president of First Construction Council, to present his welcome note. But first, a few words about him. A trailblazer who first blazed a trail in financial journalism with his chartered accountancy background, he turned to addressing the needs of construction and infrastructure and manufacturing sectors through ASAP Info Group set up in 1999. Since then, he has spearheaded India's enthusiasm for smart cities through Smart Cities Council that was set up in 2014. And now he lobbies for policy changes as the founder and president of First Construction Council. Mr. Padode, over to you.
Thank you, Shirley. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this pre-budget webinar organized by First Construction Council. The forthcoming budget is an important one to set the tone for how the Finance Ministry plans to handle the economic outlook. The economy was suffering even before the pandemic hit us in March 2020. The project pipeline was faltering. In fact, in 1920, the project announcements hit a drastic low, which mirrored the 2013-14 project announcement numbers. And 2013-14, if you remember, we were suffering from policy paralysis. So the roads and highways sector has actually been our lifeline through its performance of having executed, in fact, in 2021, 13,435 kilometers, which is an average of 37 kilometers per day in 2021. But even the road story has slowed down since then. The government set a target of 12,000 kilometers for the current financial year, against which 5,118 kilometers has been constructed as on November 30th, 2021, which is hardly 22 kilometers per day. The government has lowered the target for the year to 33 kilometers per day from 40 kilometers per day set earlier. And the original target was actually 14,600 kilometers as against 13,435 kilometers, which we constructed in 2021. From decades, we've been discussing the fact that India needs to spend 10% of its GDP on infrastructure. That we also need a ready bag of plug and play projects is also an old story. But 20 years on, and we are just about lifting off the ground. The National Infrastructure Pipeline envisages a spend of rupees 20 lakh crore, 20 trillion, against our previous record of spending 10 lakh crore, which we spent from between 2014-15 to 2019-20. Every year, annually, we were spending on an average around 10 lakh crore. Now we are expected to spend 20 lakh crore as per the National Infrastructure Pipeline. We also need 25 L&T-like companies of the size and scale and abilities to take on the mega aspirations of these mega projects, which would fulfill this 20 lakh crore kind of a pipeline. These will also require a high-powered skilling program so that we are in step with the benchmarks of productivity and execution. and we are not destroying wealth at the rate of 1 trillion a year as we are doing currently due to project delays. As I pointed out, the project pipeline is very weak and the inventory that we have of projects does not match the desired project pipeline. So although we have the National Asset Monetization Plan, which has been launched, there is no visibility of the kind of funds the National Infrastructure Pipeline will get from the National Asset Monetization Plan. And if our divestment plan has been faltering year after year, how can we establish faith in the asset monetization plan until we see some visibility? Gati Shakti has been launched to integrate multiple silo ministries. This would protect wasteful expenditure in terms of future planning of projects, not current. One great change has been the intervention of the new procurement guidelines, where L1 is not everything. There is a quality-based bidding system which has been recognized and introduced. Very, very welcome move. Surety bonds have been introduced to bridge bank guarantees for contractors. This will help bolster their strength, their financial strength to take on bigger projects. India, for the sake of its employable young population and to fulfill the aspiration, needs to grow at the rate of 8% plus. So who's going to fulfill this growth challenge for India? If our private sector capital is shy, even now, our project pipeline is weak, even now, our road sector is faltering this year also, who is going to fulfill this growth challenge? I believe the one source of this particular challenge, the solution to this challenge lies with the states. Data for the last 5 years, between 2016-17 to 2021, reveals that more than half of the projects taken up in 5 states, which is Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, 52% were taken up by these 5 states. In 2021, Rajasthan and Gujarat each accounted for the highest share in total cost of projects sanctioned by banks and financial institutions, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Maharashtra. So states which have an agenda to show development as a plank for the sake of their politics or for any other sake, I think they are showing absolutely remarkable growth. Take the example of Uttar Pradesh, which is going to election next month. We've seen how the Purvanchal Expressway has been completed in record time, and all other linkages which connected to Ganga Expressway plan, the Jewar International Airport, are all being executed at breakneck speed. If this is any indication, other states headed for election would also see a spur in their projects. So Gujarat, Uttarakhand in 22, probably after UP, and Telangana, Rajasthan, MP, Karnataka next year in 2023. While power, irrigation, railways continue to feed projects, greenfield cities need greater focus too. The Industrial Corridor Program is to create greenfield smart industrial cities with sustainable plug-and-play ICT-enabled utilities to facilitate the manufacturing investments into the country by providing quality, reliable, sustainable infrastructure for industries. So Make in India plan, there is this whole corridor plan which can actually help create these industrial cities all over India and greenfield too. So providing a good project pipeline as well. The government has approved 11 such corridors consisting of 32 projects to be developed in 4 phases. Each will have multiple townships and industrial cities. The Samruddhi Expressway, which is Mumbai to Nagpur Expressway, is creating 20 townships by itself. And one of these is already up or on its way. But 13 years after the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor was set up, 13 years ago, there is no visibility of its integration into our economic growth. Why do we not have timelines for projects of national importance? These projects collectively can fill in the gap in our project pipelines, but they are low below the radar on visibility and accountability. We are expecting that government will take further steps in the upcoming budget to boost the sector with announcements related to Bharatmala, Sagarmala, inland waterways, the dry land ports, Udan, economic zones, clusters. The PLI schemes have already come about, 13 PLI schemes. So obviously these clusters would do well in complementing them. Defense corridors, electronic parks, and so on. Giving visibility, providing accountability to these projects of these corridors, which are already been enabled, can actually build a lot of confidence, can create that desired pipeline for the national infrastructure pipeline where there are gaps and deficits. On the other hand, we have the real estate sector, where prices have remained quite stable in the previous 2 years, and in the second, and now I think the last quarter of 2021, we have seen some sort of firming up, and probably by the second half of 2022, we will see some price movement upwards as the inventories would have got exhausted. There is already a recognition and a surge in demand for homes. Lot of pent-up demand generated in past 2 years is going to start to unlock and probably provide a positive fillip to the market. Of course, loan rates being like historical low rates will definitely help boost this movement. The home buying sentiments were quite pronounced in the top 8 cities. And according to an industry report, the July-September quarter witnessed a 92% hike in home sales. And July-September period witnessed a surge of 21% in new home launches too. So all eyes are on the budget. Each year, the steps taken here determine how close we are to our desired standard of living for our country. Let's hope we take many, many steps closer this year in this year's budget. But before that, let's hear it from Sanjay Garg. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parode, for setting the right tone for today's session. Before I invite Mr. Garg, I would like to invite Ms. Chitra Kamath, Joint Director, Membership, First Construction Council, to give an overview of the activities of the Construction Council.
Thank you, Roshali. I want to welcome everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the session on the budget expectations, the first meeting for 2022 organized by the First Construction Council. Before we go ahead and call Mr. Sanjay Garg, I would like to give you a small overview of what First Construction Council is all about, our activities and our way forward. So as my colleague Vishali already has introduced First Construction Council to you, as you can see on your screen, we are an infrastructure think tank. We were formed under the foundation of infrastructure research and study training with the sole objective of helping and ensure that the Indian infrastructure industry can scale up to global standards. We do so by helping our members get a platform to voice their dialogues and also making representations to the government, information and updates on the industry, and plenty of opportunities to network and meet each other. What you see on the screen right now are the FCC Board of Governors, which includes Mr. Dip Kishore Sen, Mr. Hafiz Contractor, Mr. Pradeep Singh, Mr. Sanjay Seth, Mr. Sandeep Singh, Mr. Subodh Chandra Dikshit, and Mr. Sumi Banerjee. Well, let me just give you a brief of the activities that we have done in the last 2 years itself. Despite of the pandemic, we have ensured that we meet our core promise to our members and other clients of bringing research, content, and events together to address industry concerns and share best practices in the industry. Just to give you an overview of the kind of activities we have done. In the year 2020-21, we have done 26 webinars and 3 award ceremonies all online. In 21-22, 35 webinars and 6 award ceremonies. which included total of 240 speakers and an average of 50,000 on viewership, all cumulative. You can see on the screen the kind of virtual award ceremonies that we have done, which is the 15th Construction World Architect and Builder Award, 18th Construction World Annual Awards in 2020, 8th Annual Equipment India Award in 2020, IPF Excellence Award 2020-21-24, 4th Indian Cement Review Award 2021, 4th Make in Steel Forum in 2021, and 16th Construction World Architect and Builder Awards. Now, since September 2020-21, we have been doing physical event as well. So we've done the first pulsing of the Construction World Design Build Award program in Ahmedabad. We pulsed it again in Bangalore in the month of December. We organized the India Construction Festival on 22nd October in Mumbai, which included the India Road Conferences, Equipment India Award. And in December, we concluded the year with the Cement Expo in Delhi. Some of the key government officials that have visited and participated in FCC events include His Excellency Governor Shri Bhagat Singh Koshyari, Honorable Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, who's currently the Minister of Education, was a former Minister of Steel, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri ji, Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri T.V. Somanathan, Finance Minister of India, Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, Principal Economic Advisor to Government of India, and also Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, Minister of Road and Highways. Now to enforce our core belief of bringing the best possible research and report to our members, we have launched in the last 2 years itself the TMT Rebar report, which is on the topic of the backbone of Indian infrastructure, Indian Steel Industry 2021, a transformational thrust for the economy. Is India's $5.7 trillion infrastructure investment at risk? And currently, we are working on the 2022 edition of the TMT Rebar report as well. We do such customized reports for all our members on additional cost, of course. Just to give you a brief idea of what the kind of events we are coming up in the coming months. In the January, that is today, we are organizing our budget event. Apart from the governor's meeting, we have the Make in Steel Award and Conference coming up in the month of February on 23rd in Delhi, which is an in-person event. If you have not registered for it already, please make time for it and block it calendar. Again, on 16th of March, which is a tentative proposed date, we have an opportunity series that we are going to launch. We start with the road infrastructure series. So you can see the event calendar in front of you. In case you need more information on the kind of events we are going to come up with, or you need more information on the members, because as I mentioned, we are having a corporate membership model. In case you want to become a member with the FCC, please ensure that you visit our website, that is firstconstructioncouncil.com, or you can write to me on chitra.k@firstconstructioncouncil.com. That's my direct number. You can call me for more information. Just to give you an idea of the kind of members we have currently, we have companies like Larsen & Toubro, Schwingstatter, PSP Projects, Shyam Steel, Birla Corporation, just to name a few, and more such in the pipeline. Well, I would like to now hand over the mic to Rushali to take forward, and without much ado, let's continue with the program.
Thank you for the information. Also, I would request everyone not please block your date for 16th of March for our next event. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Sanjay Garg, partner PwC.
Thank you, Rushali. Thank you, Mr. Padode and Chitra. I'll share my screen. And Rushali, please do feel free to interrupt in case there is a communication drop.
Definitely.
Right. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Right. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you for this opportunity, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here to take you through what I believe are some of the key challenges facing our construction and infrastructure domain, and also to share my views on what I think are absolutely necessary. So, taking you briefly on what is the status 21-22 in my opinion, I believe there, in spite of the pandemic that has been there has been a reasonable spend, almost 50%, in the infrastructure part of the ministries or the government spend, which has been a positive thing, and it has anchored at least the growth of infrastructure in India. And there has been, and the other thing which is predominant is there have been a slew of actions taken by the government, like extending some of the schemes which were expiring in 21 and extending it for another 2 years, understanding the sentiment of the market. Now, just to start with it, what are the challenges in the construction industry? Because all our expectations of the budget, they are formed by the challenges that we understand are in the market. So today, number one is the inadequate capital infusion by the private sector. Right? We'll go in a little bit more detail, and maybe some of the comments that I get or the questions I get later on will help us explain in more details. The second is the limitation of technical expertise available by Indian companies. While there is a lot of infrastructure development happening, but in terms of technical expertise, in execution, I believe we are still lagging a lot behind with respect to the international expertise available. The third point which I had was there is a poor attention on O&M of completed schemes. So what does it mean? That we spend a lot of money, but that money which is spent comes to naught within a year or a couple of years due to a improper O&M of those schemes. The next point, non-alignment of schemes with benefit realization of end users. Are we doing an infrastructure build-up only for the sake of building infrastructure, or are we aligning it with the benefit realization of the end users? Now, this is very important, because some of the schemes which are coming in, the benefit which it gives to the end users has been in question. Mr. Pratap has already indicated the inadequate bandwidth of EPC contractors. We need, in his, like he said, 20 L&T like companies to be able to deliver the aspirations of India in terms of infrastructure development. And while there have been a slew of schemes, the contract performance, especially for the small to medium EPC players, which are extremely important for about 100 crores, 200 crore projects, has been dismal. There have been a lot of new players who have come in, but have been unable to sustain the performance as is required. Then there is the inadequate program monitoring and control, which was also touched upon earlier. We need to strengthen that. Land acquisition and availability, still a problem, while there have been a few of measures to de-risk the infrastructure community from land acquisition and availability by the government, but still this is a area of concern. And add to it, it's not only land acquisition, it is also the Forest Act and the Green Tribunal, which has rightly the concerns, but which acts in the viability of the projects being developed. The other point is that we are seeing a disturbing trend of renegotiation of agreed rates by government bodies. There have been agreed rates, purchase agreements by which has been agreed at a point of time, and as we go on, and as rates and the cost of or the tariffs they keep falling, this is putting a great question mark on the sustainability and the survival of a lot of the developers as we talk. The next point is the quality assurance. Quality assurance, along with the poor O&M, is resulting in infrastructure which is already existing falling into disuse or being unusable over a period of time. Stakeholder and community management. There has been inadequate stakeholder and community management in terms of that the schemes which are being developed must go hand in hand with the approval, with the consent and the participation of the stakeholder and the community. The last, which matches with my first point of inadequate capital infusion by private, one of the main reasons is the unstable commodity prices. The unstable commodity prices, the private investments, and this is what I was talking to a few developers. They say we are still waiting for the commodity prices to stabilize in a manner which makes our investment worthwhile. Like I said, the topic is huge, and what I have done is reach out to a number of project developers and EPC companies to understand their point of view. So the next 3 slides are going to be the views, the voices of the project developers and EPC companies. The first point relates to the largest spender, which is the government. And the first point is the CPI, or how do we manage the escalation for projects. The current trend is there is a CPI and a WPI index, which is the basis for escalations. Now, the problem is that it does not really affect the actual cost impact on variation of the construction cost. Cement, steel, diesel, bitumen, the variation, it does not really compensate sufficiently the EPC contractors or fixed term contracts. So one of the suggestion was have a construction commodity price index based on first principles of estimation based on minerals, coal, specific things which are material to the construction industry. The second and linked to it is a price index calculation build-up methodology to be set up as a one-time exercise under a ministry. It is similar to what USA has, which is published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Another point which has come out very strongly is the reduction of GST on cement. The cement GST, which we don't understand, the GST on cement is 28%, which is a huge amount of capital lockup in projects. The stable GST rate is another demand which is there from the sector. They say that while the GST rates of commodities of items keeps changing, right? We are supposed to provide a fixed GST that is an all-inclusive price at the time of bidding. This creates a risk which at times it can be for the benefit, but it could go against some of the EPC contractors who are bidding for it. The next point is the interest on advanced bank guarantees. While there has been a good trend which is coming out in saying that we will have a replacement of performance bank guarantees with surety bonds, right? But in spite of that, the interest on advanced bank guarantees, which is currently pegged at 10%, should come down more to the market rates of 6 to 7%. This would help us further improve liquidity for projects. The other point was policy incentives. We talked about technology. NHAI has mandated that technology adoption is mandatory for the projects which it undertakes. The similar sort of policy incentives should be there for technology adoption, use of UAVs, CCTVs, analytical reporting tools, which will not only help us in delivering projects on time, but will also help us reduce the overall cost and quality. The next point was on Qcbs. So while Qcbs is in spite of the GFR guidelines, it is unfortunately not being followed by a majority of government and PSU companies. We are still following an L1, we are lagging behind. And I'll come to it specifically that Qcbs with the 70-30 is what is the guideline of the GFR. But even the Qcbs methodology needs to be revised and updated to be able to make the execution of projects more effective. The other 2 points are from from the power sector, power sector that says that on RE products the service GST has been reduced, has been amended from 5% to 12%, right? This will increase the project development cost. We should actually retain it at 5% to promote the renewable energy targets which the government has. There should also be a policy to protect project developers from state utilities who are renegotiating bid tariffs. So I had mentioned it in the previous one, the bid tariffs being negotiated. This is a case in to be pointed out. One more point which is there, power sector in 2017, the benefits which were given on tax were withdrawn. And while there are still some incentives, it is time that the power sector is brought under the section 35 AD, which gives it an infrastructure status and provides incentives for investment in the power sector. This slide is what I'm talking about is on the real estate, urban infra, and transport part of it. While the government today is, for the smart cities, it says a 50-50 share. We believe that there is a crunch of funds with the state, and it would be good for smart city developments if this is revised to a 70-30. Also, greater emphasis should be spent on physical infrastructure rather than only on supporting the ICT. I understand ICT is an integral part and a very important part of smartness of cities. But what in our experience, what we have seen is that physical infra is not up to the mark in many cities to support the ICT initiatives which have been implemented. The next point is that while a lot of incentives are given for metros, for water transport, the last mile connectivity is still something which needs to be improved drastically. So instead of including last mile connectivity as a part of the projects which have been sanctioned, a separate provision for multimodal integration and last mile connectivity should be created within that old budget. So for metros, for water transport, this will really encourage the usage and the riderships in these modes of transport. The annuity model for PPP projects, while there is an annuity model, there is a HAM model which has been done for the road sector. But that HAM model or any specific model which is in existence may not be good enough for a lot of socially important projects. For example, hospitals or other social projects which may not be viable, under the existing schemes. So a modified annuity scheme which de-risks the developers is the need of the day. In terms of real estate, increasing home loan deduction, this is a standard ask from the industry. Increase it from 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. The GST waiver for under construction property, while it is the GST is 5% for under construction and 1% on affordable housing, but it is without input tax credit. Alternatively, if so, the thing is remove the GST totally, or alternatively bring back the ITC, the input tax credit, which would bring about more liquidity in the sector. There is again a demand for tax SOPs for the first-time home buyers. So there is a request that the credit-linked subsidy scheme for EWS and LIG is extended to financial year 23, and also include MIG, which the benefit of which was completed in March 21, to also include it in the CLSS. The last point which we heard from the industry was that, and it's been a long demand, accord a infrastructure status to the real estate sector. It will help build liquidity and bring in new players. So to summarize, and to put into perspective what we have talked about and what we heard from the industry. The first thing is policy refinement. We are not talking about policy definition. There have been enough policies to improve success rates of PPP projects.
I think there is some connectivity issue at Mr. Garg's end.
He can rejoin in case he is stuck.
Yes.
Let's wait until Mr. Garg rejoins. Just give us a minute.
Hi, Pratap. I'm sorry, got disconnected. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead. Please continue.
Right. So sorry for the disruption. Let me get back. Right. So continuing from where I left. So the first thing is the policy refinement to improve success rates of PPP projects. We should differentiate between commercial and social projects and a mix thereof, and not have a one scheme fits all. And this needs to be taken by the center, because the maturity at the at the ULBs and at the state levels may not exist for taking the PPP project definition. The next point is increasing liquidity for EPC contractors through better contract management. While 70% of invoices, they said it should be released within 7 to 8 days, there is a ask that it should be increased to 80%, and there should be a time frame also very clearly defined for releasing the balance amount. We talked about the rationalization of advanced bank guarantee from 10% to the market rates of 6 to 7%. The implementation of corporate surety bond instead of BGs. This is has been promised to start from the 1st of April. We have to make sure that this corporate surety bonds is implemented properly through the financial bodies and made a success. The construction industry, we talked about this price index for price escalation. It should be an industry specific index and not the CPI or the WPI, which is currently being used. The next is the strengthening of the Qcbs methodology. Now, this is something that is very close to my heart too, which says that Qcbs today is technical 70% and 30% on cost, wherever it is implemented. With the failure of a number of companies failing to make the need or overstretching themselves, like I say, over leveraging, it is important that we bring about a financial parameter in the 70% or the technical part of it. The strength of an organization ability to deliver the projects is as important as the number of bidders which are contractors which are there. The next is we talked about this policy support and incentives for technology adoption. So maybe 2%, 3% leverage for using PM tools could be provided to the EPC contractors, which would encourage them to use technology and thereby reduce cost as well as improve the deliverability. Now, the next point is specifically for tier 2, tier 3, and this goes hand in hand with what we talked about, the technical capability of a number of the contractors which are currently in India.
Sanjay, can you share the slide on the screen, because the audience...
Just a minute. I'm sorry. Oh, I was not sharing the screen. Disabled. It is disabled at the moment. Rushali, you will have to help me with that.
Okay, I'm just getting it done.
Yep.
Go ahead, Sanjay, you can do it.
Just a minute. Yeah, it should be visible now.
Yes, visible.
Right. So I was at the point of talking about that the incentivized tier 2 and 3 contractors to invest in project systems. Now, multilateral bodies, they do provide about 2% of the total amount that they are giving. They allow for project management funds to be made available to the developers. Unfortunately, this is not used because it increases the debt. While here I'm talking only about the tier 2 and tier 3 contractors, give them an incentive that if you spend, say, 2% or 3% of your total project cost on process development, which is certified by an independent body for improvement, this will bring about a lot of transparency and improve the performance of contractors and help them develop into the next level as we are growing our infrastructure capability in India. The next is policy to provide sustainable. We talked about the O&M budget. I have talked about it. And for sustainable O&M budget in public projects, there should be incentives which have been claimed for those projects should be linked to the O&M budget which is made and prescribed for these projects. The other part which we have not done for infrastructure projects at a national level is allocate 2 to 3% of the contract budget for quality compliance. This, while will impact the liquidity to some extent, but at the other end will ensure that at the end what is being handed over is up to the quality which is being prescribed or proscribed under the contract. We talked about the involvement of communities in benefit realization, planning and implementation. Then the last two schemes are on the PLI. The PLI we have seen for the power sector, 4,500 crores was given for the scheme for the power sector. This we believe is was probably too less, and while the government was considering to raise it to 21,000 crores, there are a number of other schemes like textile which has not yet drawn the sort of interest which was envisaged. So realign the funding which has been allocated for PLI schemes in line with the demands and the ask of the industry. The last point which I have here is for the construction, specifically for the infrastructure. Like a PLI scheme, there should be a scheme which will help MSMEs and new startups in building up their ability to develop infrastructure projects. This, while infrastructure is still lagging behind, and while manufacturing has gone into a manufacturing 4.0, construction is still yet to reach the level of 2.0. And this particular sort of scheme can really help our startups and MSMEs to become important players in this field. So that is all from my end, Rushali and Pratap, and I'm open to any questions that may be there. Thank you.
Rushali, you can ask the questions from the chat if the people have put.
Mr. Garg, there's a question. The real estate sector, which contributes nearly 10% of overall GDP, has fared poorly in the last 5 years. What are the reasons for this, according to you?
Can you just repeat it? I thought I was reading the chat instead of concentrating. I'm sorry.
The real estate sector, which contributes nearly 10% to the overall GDP, has not fared well or has fared poorly in the last 5 years. What, according to you, are the reasons for this?
See, I believe there are multiple reasons for it. One is the confidence. See, since the time that the new policies, regulations have come in, the confidence of the investor, some of the money is still stuck up in projects which are which have yet to show benefits. So that has been one of the things. The second thing is that while incentives have been given by the government, it will take probably a year more for it to really show the benefits, like extending of the LIG and the which we are talking about, EWS schemes, right? Which is supposed to end in 22. Extending it by another year will give it the boost. So a consistent focus in this area, and also bringing the confidence that the developers are aligned to the interest of the buyers, it will go in a long way. And like Pratap said, there has been a major increase in the number of houses which have been available in terms of buyers who are interested, and especially with the work from home. I believe that people will go in for larger houses because that has become the work from home has become a reality, and the investment and the demand for housing will definitely be there as we go along.
Mr. Garg, there's another question again for the real estate sector. The Indian real estate sector went through difficult period due to pandemic, and various players from different segments were expecting reforms in the 2021 budget. What can we expect from the budget for infrastructure segment this year?
The expectation is something which I think the finance minister will have to say what our expectations from the from the government has been highlighted to say that extend the subsidy linked schemes further for another couple of years. We have also said give it an industry status to the infrastructure sector. So these are some of the things which are required. Linking we talk about in general in construction. We are talking about the wholesale price index being the criteria for price escalations. So all the things which are generally applicable for the infrastructure sector could also be applicable to the housing sector and to the to the real estate sector.
Sanjay, I was, see the national infrastructure pipeline envisages that nearly 40% contribution comes from the private sector. And, we have seen in the past between 2003 and 2008, the private sector was very vibrantly engaged in, contribution to the infrastructure sector. So how do you see, how are you seeing the private, the private capital has remained shy. Do you see any revival in their confidence, and therefore are they, because we do hear expansion plans, commodity prices have been up, some of the sectors which have really done well, do you see them loosening their purse strings and contributing?
Definitely. See, from all the indications which are there from the industry and I've been talking, they have got enough internal accruals. So the thing of funding is not a problem. See, earlier they were looking more at funding from debt. Today, most of the people that I'm talking about have got sufficient internal accruals. They are only waiting for the sentiment to go up post the pandemic where the demand comes up. And the second thing is the commodity pricing, which needs to be looked up. The cement, the steel, the sort of pricing which has gone up has made many of these projects which were on the board unviable. So they are waiting for this thing to stabilize, and going forward, Omicron, this third wave which we have, hopefully by March, by the next financial year, we should have got used to it, and it should have stabilized the impact on our economy. And we definitely do see a lot of good sentiment going forward.
There's another question. The allowance of debt financing for infrastructure investment trusts, InvITs, and real estate investment trusts, REITs, by foreign portfolio investors was a step in the right direction. Can we expect more such steps in this budget too?
It is very important that we see this in the current budget, and not only from the foreign investors in the real estate or in the infrastructure, but also by the construction companies wherein technology needs to be brought up. In fact, just this morning there was a discussion going on how do we form Indian companies with the collaboration of foreign companies in a way that the tax benefits are accrued, the risks of the foreign companies are reduced, right? And we have the right technology which comes into India by the foreign investors. Now, this is a topic of discussion, and hopefully there will be more schemes by the government of India which encourages foreign investors, not only in direct investment, but also in the infrastructure construction business part of it.
There's another question. Logistic cost is high in India. Government has announced many manufacturing parks, corridors for textile, auto, defense. How can budget make these parks or corridors more competitive?
See, there are a number of things. When we talk about the logistics, there is the ports, which is there. Then there is the container section, which goes in. And in terms of the logistics, we said, there is a requirement, allocate fund for developing MMLPs to drive logistics efficiency in the country. There are, continued focus on developing logistic infrastructure and multimodal connectivity. Multimodal connectivity, which started with the inland waterways at one point, is yet to show fruit in the. So while there has been some work going on, it is still far away from that multimodal connectivity to say how does it go from road to railways to the waterways and then back away again at the least possible cost and the most optimal way. So, even for example, in logistics, with our target, we are looking at how do we bring in the efficiencies in energy and in fuels into it. How do we reduce the cost per kilometer by using alternative methods or alternative fuels, which will align with our carbon commitments which we have made at the global level, as well as reduce the overall cost and make it more efficient.
Thank you. These are all the questions that have come. If any more questions, I can definitely post them onto you and get your answers on them offline.
Sure, Vishali, for sure. Thank you so much.
Mr. Parode, I would like you to sum up and present your thank you note.
I think there's one more question that's come. Maybe you can take that last one, which has just come.
Okay. Road construction, which is the main driver for construction equipment industry, has slowed down from 35 to 21 kilometers a day. Funds availability at the center and state level are poor, further delaying the projects. Apart from increasing the commodity
prices
going forward, what do you see in that direction?
See, the largest contributor to our infrastructure development is the road sector, right? Followed by the railways. And whatever have been the hiccups in the last 1 year, see, it has showed a slowdown for the last couple of years. And that has been primarily because of, one, the labor problem, which people are trying to sort out. And like we said, the funds availability is not so much, it is more the capacity and the capability of the contractors to be able to deliver. As I see it, technical or technology infusion is the only way that we will be able to meet our targets. That was something that Pratap had also mentioned, that to be able to meet our targets, we need to have technology infusion, and it would start from the roads for sure. So this budget, there should be, in my opinion, sufficient incentives to bring about technology and improve the role of foreign players in this segment to be able to achieve the 35 kilometers to 40 kilometers what we had targeted earlier.
If I may add, Sanjay,
please.
Also the part that the states are, making moves on their own. So, for example, like I mentioned, Uttar Pradesh has actually, they say in the quarter of October to December 21, out of the total projects completed, nearly over 30% have come from Uttar Pradesh because of whatever completion they managed to do prior to elections. So obviously they had a political motivation. Right. But from that standpoint, we are lucky. We've got 6-7 elections to go, and if each state manages to do that, we can really pep up the road sector and other projects. But I see that states independent of the center could also be governing a growth agenda of their own.
And supported by the center, irrespective of the political affinity, to be able to provide the funds which are required. NHAI and MORTH being the two primary drivers of the road sector should play their role in monitoring, in ensuring that these projects are completed, Pratap. Absolutely right, bang on.
Right, so that brings us to the end of this pre-budget expectation webinar. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Sanjay Garg for taking up this role of bringing together all the expectations from the voices of various EPC, contractors and developers put them together for us. Thank you very much for staying with us this afternoon and answering all these questions. Thanking also the audience for participating in this. I think all eyes are on the budget, and First Construction Council promises to continue to give you knowledge, whether virtually or physically. And I think given the drop in cases, we are likely to see more of the physical or the hybrid model in this in these networking ventures that we will host during 2022. A whole calendar, if you write to chitra.k@asapinfo at First Construction Council, you will probably get that calendar for you so that you can participate. And of course, the findings or the expectations, we are going to put it in the form of a report. Many of these expectations are not likely to come true in the budget, and therefore we will probably remind the Finance Ministry that these are the voices of the EPC contractors and developers, and maybe, as they have been doing in the last 2 years, they need to keep intervening. They need to course correct depending on the needs of the economy, and the needs of the economy are really dire now given the current pandemic situation. It was said when the pandemic hit us that it would take 2 years for us to get back to normal. We are not yet back to normal, and it's 2 years. So a little bit more push is required, and we hope that this budget manages to nudge us in that direction. Thank you very much. Stay safe and let's hope for a good budget.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
And I would also like to request everyone to please block your calendars for the next topic on opportunities in road construction, which is on 16th of March, 2022. Thank you.